E grazie a Arc Marathon, molto contento di essere qui. Grazie a Simona e a Luca per l'invito e a tutti all'Arc Marathon. Okay, let's switch gears and language. I feel very much like Beyonce with this thing. I'm going to break into a dance soon. Okay, so a president, APAP, open school, an art school on the Anyang River in the periphery of Seoul, Korea, completed in 2010, building completely made out of shipping containers. The main body is floating over the landscape on pilotis with tilted containers. They bring you up and then up to the sky. I mentioned this project because the client of the Qiyun mountain camp fell in love with this building and decided that something similar to that should be the gate to the camp. So fast forward 5 years, 2015, we land in Qiyun, at the foot of Qiyun Mountain. Qiyun Mountain is one of the four sacred mountains of Taoism, the place where the yin and yang symbol was started. Fantastic natural place. Never we thought that we would get the chance to work in a natural spot in China. Always worked in Beijing and Shanghai and Tianjin, very dense cities. All of a sudden we are in this magnificent place like the old Chinese prints with, peaky hills, bamboo, very lush. This is Qiyun mountain right here on the right. And here we are in the valley. The hill that you see here in the foreground is already part of the park. You can see some of the tree houses. The camp is the largest camp in China for public natural adventure and extreme sports. All the little red marks that you see are where the adventures are and so on and so forth. We were commissioned all the public buildings of the camp. So the group number 1 on the right is the entrance pavilion with Market Street. The group number 2 is a cluster of restaurants, and number 3 is the pier where all the aquatic sports start from. Plus there are several little things that are all part of the same modular system that are scattered around the park. The entrance, that's the main access road, regional road. You can see all the rides and everything there. The entrance pavilion is the big cross, and then the market. Here you see from the top. So the yin and yang inspired us a lot with the idea of contrasting colors, of opposite colors. So each group is characterized by a different color coupling. Here we have turquoise blue and orange. The pavilion and the market behind. The pavilion is a big cross created with cutting containers at one end at 45 degrees and arraying them around the central axis. This cross is then elevated and placed on top of angled tilted containers. These containers have stairs to go up, and also ticket booths, both for car entrance and pedestrian entrance. The building, as you can see, is basically a big roof over the turnstiles to get in the park. The tilted containers on top instead of skylights. And it's not just about the light. The skylights also are aiming at beautiful views of the top of the mountain. The building, as you can see, is exactly what the client wanted. He wanted a big, iconic gate to get into the park that you could see from the main road, a cover for the entrance because torrential rains here. We're in a subtropical climate. The volume geometry is very much of a game. We had a lot of fun with this object. It was an infinite amount of mirroring and remirroring and remirroring, almost to a dizzying level, vertigo. Especially when you go up the stairs, you don't know if you're looking down, if you're looking up, if you're looking at the sky, if you're looking at the ground. Um, the space inside of the cross, it all revolves around that central column. So we have the info center, we have offices, we have bathrooms, and then we have a lounge, and the view from the lounge shows exactly the market behind. The market and the other clusters that I'm going to show are all derived from cutting a 40-foot shipping containers on a 45-degree bias, creating different modules, different length, and also different shapes, the ones with a straight angle, the one with the 45 angle, plus a special container where instead the transformation is in the vertical plane, cut, rotate, re-weld, and that's basically a staircase. Here are all the modules. These modules, again, combined together, create all the buildings that you're going to see. Here you have in the middle, the ground floor plan of the entrance pavilion and the market. So the market is a series of crosses, all deriving for the 45 degrees cut of the modules. And the crosses are then completed, if you see at the top plan, with a number of pergolas and bridges that actually bridge over the little street, and also all the X's, all the crosses in a sequence create these little squares where people can rest. As we go down more and more, you can see how tight the market is, really in a very tight cleavage in between two hills. And the contact with the bamboo, with this very lush bamboo, becomes very, very strong. Here we are on the street, under one of the bridges, the bridge, the stores, the double wide container store, the single wide container store, one of the tilted containers up to the bridges. The bridge terrace is a place for rest, for eating, but it also connects directly to the higher levels of the hill. So the people, once they are living in their little tree houses and everything, they can come here directly. The other end of the market, 3-level high, containers scattered, as I was saying, all over the place for all different kinds of uses. The next cluster is the restaurant cluster, very much like a little acropolis, overlooking on a hill, in a cleavage again, in between two hills, overlooking the river, overlooking the park. The two buildings are plugged into the hills, almost like a containment wall, and really holding up the hill and connecting to the hill. Plaza in the middle with this pinch point. Here we see it from the back, coming from the middle of the park. We're going in the little pinch point, the larger plaza from the other side. Building still under construction. I'll tell you later in a second what's going on with this project. These images are about a year ago. The park has not been activated yet. It's becoming twice as big as it was, so it's going to be twice as much the biggest camp in China for this kind of stuff. So there is a lot of merging happening, and the project is evolving and changing. Here we see more tilting containers, stairs coming from the river, tilting containers towards the sky. The one with the circular window is a private dining room in the sky. The one in the back with the terrace is where a zip line starts and goes back down to the middle of the park. The stairs that go up to the zip line. The building against the magnificence of the natural setting. The last cluster is the pier. The pier also, again, in a cleavage between two hills, anchored with a little head, with a little plaza, cafe, bathrooms, changing rooms, and then the little containers that line the path towards the water, where all the rentals happen, kayaks, rental, and all the other equipment. Here we're looking back towards the plaza with the little cafe up there. And here instead we're looking towards the river where all the rental boxes are. I also wanted to show you a little bit of the construction. This is all prefabricated in a factory outside of Shanghai, trucked here, and then erected. The erection of the entrance pavilion, I have to say, was quite heroic. Pretty amazing to just see. You see, because the cross was built and formed before, and then it was craned up and down onto the tilted containers. Little video. I don't know if it starts. How do you start it, guys? Do you know? Is there a way? Oh, there we go. A little dizzying, but it was very interesting to see the whole construction and erection of this thing, the way that it was brought onto, with people floating on it. Okay, and then, the very last image, which is when architecture becomes one of the adventures, right? So this is now people scaling, climbing over the tilted containers to be able to take pictures. That's it. Wow. Beyonce doesn't know how to move. Okay.
So I was wondering how has been the construction in different sites where you do these containers? How has it worked? Like with China and then with Europe?
Oh, in
North
general,
America.
you mean? Okay. Always different. Always different. So in China is the most sophisticated. Containers are 99% of containers in the world are fabricated in China, so they are the masters. So we can do a level of prefabrication in China that is not possible almost anywhere in the world. Korea was also very much like that, but China is. And then you go all the way to the opposite, to South Africa, to Johannesburg, where instead the containers were not prefabricated at all. Very old, beaten up containers. We stacked them very high before, seven high, and then they started cutting into them. So it was beautiful because it was like a Mata Clark project, to really see the sparkles at night and the cuts happening there, but really the opposite. And we've done everything in between, everything in between.
What about the reaction of people?
What about what?
The reaction of visitors, of people.
Of this, well,
we saw it
only unfortunately, very disappointedly, while after it was built, the rides and all the adventures took much longer. They're actually still building them, but not only that, the whole thing has been sold to another company that has acquired just as much more land. So it's becoming twice as big. Because, in China, they do all these projections. They're building another fast train that gets very close to Wangshan, which is the big city next to there. So they are foreseeing, I can't remember, like millions of people a year there. So they decided that the park was too small, even though it's already the biggest one in the world, and they are doubling it in size. So we might get more buildings, but for now, it's basically a little bit frozen. So only the pier is being activated. As you could see, there were already some kayaks, but everything else is still, it's more finished than what you've seen. We just haven't sent a photographer yet, because now we want to wait for people and activation before we do that. So, but the reaction so far has been very good, to the point that they want to double it. So, but I don't know, it's hard to follow from so far away. You're very welcome. Thank you.